Thank you very much for joining us on PM Express. And the last 24 hours, in fact, even more than that, 48 hours, we've had a standoff in Obuasi between illegal miners and Anglo Gold Ashanti. And this is not the first this year where we've seen this tension spill over and boil into a conflict between the local community and the legal miners and established mines. This latest incident brings into sharp focus the challenge that we've had to deal with for years, the illegal mining issue. But now we know it's not only destroying a forest and water bodies, but it's also now putting direct lives at risk because those established mines, properly licensed, large-scale mines, are now being threatened by the illegal miners who feel that they can invade their concessions and take back what they believe the mines have and have been given to them by the state. And that is one issue which has led to a conversation. But we're going to open this up to all the issues that we know is confronted. On the back of some fantastic work that my colleague, Irasa Saridonko, is beginning to do, revisiting the many river bodies and the forest to gauge what has happened in these forests over time whilst we've all slept. I will tell you what he's done so far on this. But let's get into a bit of the details on the back of what has happened in the last 48 hours. The first is, as you know, the Anglo Gold Ashanti mine, 87 illegal miners. We know where they invaded the mine and then they deliberately got into their shaft and refused to come out. So far, as of tonight, we know that 87 of them have now agreed to emerge. The miners were afraid to come out because if they did come out, they will be arrested. Why? Because they had invaded and illegally entered a mine, and the police was determined to arrest them. They later then exited the shaft through the main exit points. The police arrested them, and as we know, all of them have been granted bail. Some of them put in police custody first and then granted bail. No injuries have been reported, and initially we're told that they were trapped. They weren't trapped at all. They went in there themselves willingly. Okay. But this is not the only one. And this, for me, is a very important picture because in March, lives were directly put at risk. And this is a situation in the Golden Star Wasa Limited, where the illegal miners in the community took up arms, went into their compound and burned the entire place down. As you see the vehicles there torched by the illegal miners. And they were supported by a lot of the community folks who believe it is their right and that the established mines were stealing or taking away what they believe belonged to them. But this is really what happened. And I'll show you another picture there of a vehicle completely burned beyond recognition. This picture tells 1,000 stories. And that indeed is what is beginning to play out in parts of the country. So the illegal miners, they're becoming very, very daring. Considering that now they are now taking up shafts belonging to established mines and refusing to come out. Daring, apart from the fact that they're destroying the water bodies. But then we've had these cases over time. This is 2022. What I've shown you before, it's 2023. But if you go to 2022, you also see the stories of 11 Galamseyers trapped in pit in Ariam. It happens a lot. In fact, Anglo Gold Ashanti last year had a similar incident. Illegal miners sneaked into their pit belonging to them. And so what we've seen this last 48 hours is not really new. It's happened to them before. Miners were scared of arrest again in that time, and they stayed in the pit. They spent 5 days in that particular pit, and the company was alleged to have neglected pay for 12 years. The company, of course, denies this. But at some point, this needs to be dealt with because we have over 200,000 people were engaged in illegal mining as of 2017. And if this is according to the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, and they document this quite in a detailed fashion. So it will appreciate nearly 3 million rely on Galamsey for their livelihood. So we see why this has become such a big deal and why it's not stopping. Ghana attracted about 50,000 gold seekers from China alone in 2017. And if you look at it, more than 19,000 hectares, or about 2% of our cocoa plantations, destroyed by Galamsey operators. The cocoa farmers sometimes are offered money and they just give up the cocoa farms to illegal miners in many of these communities. So this is a big problem. Also, if you consider that the company was alleged to have also neglected the pit for 12 years, which I highlighted with the case of Anglo Gold Ashanti. But the president had told us when he began his first term that he was putting, in 2017, he was putting his presidency on the line to fight Galamsey. He has a few months now to exit. It's a year and a few months to exit. You have to ask yourself, what has he achieved in doing this? October 2022, we also saw him making another pledge that will deal with government officials found complicit in the Galamsey activities. The question is, which government official found complicit in Galamsey activities has he dealt with? The conversation always around provide the evidence, because there's no evidence to back this just yet. Now, this is a picture from what Erastus Aridonko has been doing very recently, and is doing some great work on trying to help us appreciate how bad the situation is. And I want you to watch this because it tells you the current story of what we are still doing to our forest and our water bodies. After all these years of the claim that we are fighting this and possibly winning it, Erastus found a completely different story. Watch this, after which my guest and I will sit down for a conversation on the back of what has happened in the last 48 hours.
Love News in 2022 captured Akunta Mining Limited and other illegal miners polluting the Tano River at Samraboy in the western region. We uncovered irresponsible mining polluting the Tano at various points in communities like Atala, Uhiampenika, and Datano sections of the river. A year after producing the Distraction for Gold documentary, we went back to Samraboy to gauge the situation on the ground. The miners have abandoned posts and left behind deep pits and gullies they created along the Tano River. Ofusua Sare Samuel is the assembly member for the Mumuni electoral area.
After your last documentary, those that they were in operation, they left the community or they left the site. They are no more here or destroying the land.
But our tour of the adjoining villages along the Tano revealed disturbing pictures of direct active mining in the Tano River with residues directed into the Tano. Champagne operators and illegal miners currently sit on the river at various points. These Chinese miners were spotted at Boya, a farming community, driving the excavators and operating the mine themselves, contrary to mining regulations.
This is purely illegal. There is no buffer between the Tano River and what they are doing. And if you see in the distance, there is a washing bay sitting at the edge of the tunnel, washing directly into the river. This is purely criminal.
Close to the airstrip at Samraboy, these two Chinese nationals were found operating this mine, which seems to be violating the government's buffer zone policy for mining close to major water bodies like the Tano River. They told me the site belongs to Akunta Mining Limited.
You go drop me bojo.
This side, Akunta people.
Yeah.
Officials of Akunta Mining will not respond to the claims. The devastated Atala, Uhiampenika and Datano lands fall into the concession of Unipar Mining Company Limited. But even before Unipar could complete its licensing processes to start mining, large parts of its concession have been invaded by illegal miners. David Thompson is Corporate Affairs Manager.
Whilst we acquired it over a period of time, illegal miners started to come onto the concession. We tried to engage them in a cordial manner to try and say, hey gentlemen, this is illegal mining. We didn't really get too far in that negotiation. Therefore, we informed the Mineral Commission. So we engaged the military to remove them. They were removed, And then subsequently, they've started to come back again.
David speaks of the dangers of mining in the river tunnel, calling for urgent steps to control the practice.
Any activity on any of the rivers, straight away, it's like, surely, people, please, this is going nowhere for you. You're going to make a quick buck. How long is it going to last? But the decimation, the catastrophe that you're leaving behind is shocking. The poisons, the colours of the water, the local indigenous people who wash their clothes from that river, who are drinking and using to cook their food from that river. I mean, it's a travesty. And I really believe that should stop an awful lot of the illegal mining on the rivers immediately.
Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Atala, Ohiampenika, Samraboy, Western Region.
Joining me right now is Ahmed Dasana Naktoma. He's the Director of External Relations and Sustainability at the Ghana Chamber of Mines, who will join us on Zoom pretty shortly. We also have Dr. Engineer Ken Ashigbe, who is a convener of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. In the studio with me is Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo. He's a ranking member on Lands and Forestry Committee in Parliament. Also joining us, of course, is Erastus Asaredonko, whose work you just saw there. He's a producer of this Galamsey documentary that you witnessed. And we'll also be joined by Gerard Boache. He's a Senior Corporate Affairs Manager at Golden Star Wasat Limited. And as I explained earlier, they have been at the receiving end of an attack by some of these illegal miners. And I want to quickly come to the studio. Dr. Pelpo, so you saw the documentary, that brief feature by my colleague Erastus. How do you react to something like that? And this, by the way, is our attempt to do a recall of where we are in the Galamsey fight. You know, after all the effort that government claims that they've expended, wanted to go back and check. So what have we achieved? That was the result.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Evans, and thanks for bringing me here. This is a testimony of the failure of government. It's very obnoxious about what is happening. It is very repulsive because government itself came out in April 2021 to say that it has banned mining in some specific areas, including across rivers and forest areas, forest reserves. And what we are seeing today is exactly what they said they have banned. And it tells about government itself involvement, government's inability to do what it has promised the people of Ghana, the complete failure of governance in the Galamsey industry, the inability of government to protect those resources that define Ghana's riches. And it's simply a disturbing phenomenon. I cannot imagine that our people are reduced to this level of slavery by external people. So the Chinese there, in their numbers and mining us, and when they go into river areas, they destroy the place. Africans are there in their numbers, Ghanaians are there in their numbers, not wearing clothes, not wearing enough boots, and they are sinking into rivers and in waters and in dams and trying to get gold and getting themselves destroyed. Whilst they watch on, whilst they are masters, the Chinese there who are laborers for other people are also watching them from above. And our leaders who are supposed to get the rights we have given them, the mandate we have given them to protect the land, to ensure that the resources are preserved, not for today's generation, but also for tomorrow's generation, are being destroyed under their watch. It's so disturbing. I mean, it just shows that these are not leaders at all. It shows that we are on an automatic kind of crafts.
I mean, Dr. Ashigbe, fatigued yet? Because you've been on this journey for years. Then you watch this after all the years of fight.
Evans, how can you be fatigued? So you see things like this and your heart bleeds. Our generation has done the worst to Ghana ever since we started. And you ask yourself, if a journalist is able to uncover this? How on earth do you have an MC who is the municipal or district security chief, chairperson in that community, the district mining committee chairperson and this is happening? How is it that we have a regional minister who is supposed to be coordinating over this? How is it that we are supposed to have had drones that are supposed to be taking footages over this? How is it that we are supposed to have a navy being able to pilot police our water bodies? How is it that we have intelligence officers in the community like this? How is it? There's no, it's just showing us we are leaderless. And where we are getting into, so we cannot be fatigued. Because you see, the people who are perpetuating this, who want this thing to succeed, they want us to get tired. But we've gotten to the point where right now, you've seen the octopus babies that we're delivering. You are seeing babies, the damage that we're doing to our people in those communities. People will tell you that 3 million people living livelihoods of Galamsey. How many more people are we impoverishing? If you go to Kumasi, a lot of those old buildings you see, most of them were built with money from cocoa. Tell me how many indigenous people are benefiting from this calamity, this ecological suicide that we're committing. That we're doing. You are actually seeing people mining directly in the riverbeds. And all of those chemicals are going into these communities. And another thing we're doing, so you saw the Wasa issue that happened.
Yes.
It was in that place. So what we're doing is that we're emboldening these people because they see that people like Akonta Mining will get involved in this thing and nothing happens to them. They will see that Heritage Imperial, will be giving exploratory licenses. They will go and do it. Nothing will happen to them. They see that the Bosumi Friend DC, confesses. It is caught on tape, confessing to the criminality. What has happened to him? They see all of this thing, and so when they see you do it and nothing happens to them, it emboldens them. And they come in and they do these things. This is a scar on the conscience of all of that. And so all of us need to step up and say, this has to stop. Look at the way the tunnel has been dealt with. How are we going to restore this? So definitely, for me, the way that Otumfuo said about the chiefs, it's the same thing that should be happening. The president said it, that the KPI for all of these DCEs, the KPIs for MPs in these communities should be, what are you doing? So when the president met all of these MCs and DCs, how many months ago, has he gone back to ask any of them, is Galamsey still happening? Have you seen any DC MC say, I'm trying to fight it and nothing is happening to me? What jobs are they doing in those communities? And it's a shame that we've had from 2017 up to this particular time. And there's one of the things you mentioned. Have you seen any leader even being prosecuted so far as this is concerned? Even one. When we all know that the people who are involved in this, the only reason this is happening is because you have leadership which is either complicit or leadership that are also directly involved.
On the back of the Frimpong Barton report, the president said the evidence wasn't there.
How on earth? I don't know whether you've seen it. The professor was actually given a letter. There was a letter given to him by the chief of staff. So it was not of something that he just wrote. And this is a country that we have the whistleblowers bill that's been passed into law, to the extent that we encourage whistleblowers. So if you've had the chief of staff write to somebody who was a cabinet member, who was the chairperson of an interministerial committee, and the person comes back to you, and then you will hear the presidency write and say that this is only allegations, personal,
personal grievances. To do with it. I want to bring in Erastus. Erastus, how difficult was it to find this particular Galamsey site and actually get the access you got to film it?
Well, so Evans, this is on the back of the documentary Distraction for Gold, which we did in 2022. So we went to all these areas in 2022 to uncover and reveal what was happening in the bushes over there. The areas that we went back to were areas that we had gone in 2022, and we saw the devastation, the pollution of the Tamil River. We went to other areas, the Ankobra and others. So we started something to go back this time around to look at the health effects and to also to gauge the mood since we last went to those areas. So if you realize, the documentary yielded some results. The people who were mining in the Tunnel River, Akonta mining was part of them. In Atala, Uhiampenika, all in Samreboy, those areas, they've abandoned posts, they've left. And they've left the pits and other things lying fallow in there. But when we wanted to now extend our visit to other uncovered areas in the forest and try to gauge what is happening, whether indeed, in fact, when we went in there, we still saw the Tunnel River still so polluted, in fact, more polluted than we met it last year.
So is worse a year on from what you saw the last time? So it's not getting better.
And when you see the turbidity levels for the tunnel in 2023, it will shock you. I wish I could pull that data for you, but it's not close to me at the moment. But the Ghana Water Resources Commission has come up with 2023 turbidity levels, and it's worse than 2022 that we saw. And so we decided to check the tunnel to find out what is happening. And so other communities where previously there was no mining, we now saw at a place called Boya and Bena, which is along the Samreboy area in the forest there, we saw active mining. And this time around, it's been done by the Chinese themselves, contrary to mining regulations, because, you know, this area is reserved for Ghanaians. And the Chinese are not supposed to even be there in the first place, let alone drive excavators and be excavating land.
Yeah, we saw it in the shot there where one Chinese guy was actually seated behind and actually operating the excavator.
Yes. And so, Evans, what we saw was shocking to the extent that you see the alluvial washing bay sitting directly at the edge of the tunnel. And so there is that intention, the menstria, to wash directly into the Tunnel River.
And what you see on your screen there is a tunnel. That is the Tunnel River. That's what you see.
Yes,
there.
That's the Tunnel River.
That's the Tunnel River. That's what
Evans,
you see.
if you see this vast resource, this large river, which used to, supply, used to be the lifeblood of the forest itself, and the people in there using it to farm in those areas. They get fishes from it. They fish, they do all manner of things from there. And now you can't do anything with that water source.
Yeah,
it's just flowing.
It's clearly dead. I want to bring it in my friends from the chamber, but also from the Wasa Golden Star Limited. And as you know, there's another dimension to this conversation that we need to explore. And Ken raised it earlier. The illegal miners are getting even more bold now. They are not just destroying the river bodies. They are taking on the established mining giants in this country, forcibly entering their premises, and as we've seen in the case of the Anglo Gold, taking over the mine and going into their shaft and locking themselves and saying, we are not going to come out. Let me bring in Gerard. Hello, Gerard. Hello, Gerard. Okay, Gerard, please unmute for me. Gerard Boache is the Senior Corporate Affairs Manager at Golden Star Wasa Limited. Okay, well, let's see if we can get him back on. I understand that we lost him briefly. But I have with me the rep from the Chamber of Mines. He is Ahmed Dasana Naktoma. He's the Director of External Relations and joins us. Ahmed, I know today you sent a delegation to Obuasi, where we've had this standoff for the last few days between the Anglo Gold and the illegal miners. How has it been resolved? Hello, Ahmed. Okay. Hello, Ahmed.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello, Evans, can you hear me?
I can, yes, loud and clear. Can you hear me? Yeah, unfortunately, we'll try and resolve that. Let me come to the studio whilst we check that. But Mr. Purple, so you have a situation where, as we've now been talking about this in the last 1 month, just above that, we've had a situation where the miners now, apart from destroying the river bodies, are now attacking mines. We've seen the Wassa case, which I showed. They burned the place down. In this case of the Anglo Gold Ashanti, they went in there, invaded the place, and entered their shaft and said they won't come out. That is the next level of threat now that we are facing. The people themselves, are illegal miners now, taking the law into their own hands and now forcibly taking over established mines.
Evans, when the former Minister for Environment, Professor Frimpong Boateng, came out to say that government officials were involved in this matter, you may have been doubting, or some other people may have been wondering whether it was true or not. Now, it is logically the case. The government itself is involved and emboldening the illegal miners to do what they are doing. It is so terrible. It is attacking the very nerve center of our gold industry. The legally acceptable companies that have taken license and have been given the right to mine are the ones they are attacking.
Yeah.
These people who are doing that, normally you don't get taxes from them, you don't get their taxes and all that. Let me tell you the saddest thing of it all, and why I think that government involvement is a critical element of it. Mm-hmm. The government, through the president, in April 2021, issued a statement that it was illegal to mine in river areas. They were red areas.
The red zones.
The red zones. You couldn't mine there. And but between 2021 and 2023, 6 different, 7 licenses have been issued by the Minerals Commission to companies that, operate straddling the key rivers we are talking about, using the rivers as their wash areas for the gold industry. And look, River Ankobra is part of it. It's as much.
Is this something before your committee?
These are things that we are taking up. Pra is there, Tano is there, Ofin is there, and several of them. The Minerals Commission consistently ignores the fact that there are red zones, and they are issuing the licenses.
So these were issued when?
These were issued
after the red zones had been.
I can tell you, after that, after the red zones had been declared, this is 2022.
2022, okay.
2022, license number ML2 2021 was issued.
Okay. But where? Where to which company?
Across River Ankobra, and it was issued on the 22nd September 2022. And then another one, ML2/47, alongside and across River Tano was also
alongside
issued.
And across River Tano.
Yes, and alongside and across River Tano.
And it's specified in the.
Yes, and entering into the Boyne Tano Forest Reserve area was also issued. These are red zone areas. They are issuing the licenses.
Is this
for
a
them.
verified document, though?
These are verified. I mean, I can send it to you.
Yeah. And
the
source of this document
is some research I have made into the licenses that have been given
in the last
between 2021 and 2023.
And I wonder what the purpose of that. What do you intend to do with it? Because I know you are.
Well, it's to bring it forward. The job. What we are doing at Lands and Forestry is to show concern about the fact that reserve lands, reserve areas have been targeted and destroyed.
Okay.
Lands that are supposed to be, reserved for development or for the people, for farming, have been destroyed. Those are our concerns. We are not so technically talking about the fact that people are doing mining. They are using machines and things like that. We are concerned about the fact that areas that are supposed to be kept for the nation, the states, from generation to generation to be utilized in future, have been destroyed.
So it's in the line of that work that you've requested and secured this document.
And secured these documents. And we are so worried about the fact that these things are happening. Companies have been given licenses to destroy lands, and government is looking on as if it didn't. I mean, it doesn't matter.
I mean, Mr. Shigbe, Dr. Abdul Rashid Papo is a ranking member on the committee in Parliament. So when he refers to the document, you grant him at least now benefit of the doubt. But if what he's saying is actually true, that this is 2022.
2021 to 2022.
Along and across
Yes.
River Tano. And that's the same river, by the way, that Erastus...
But that's the evidence you are seeing.
That Erastus
this is the evidence you are seeing.
That showed us. I wonder how you respond to stuff like that.
I would want to do... and again, we've said this severally about the fact that these are red zones. We've said it severally, and again, that if there's no law in Ghana that permits mining close, then I think there's a buffer that is supposed to be happening. So if you have the situation and there's mining across and along, and we all know the threat to our water bodies, the fact that where we are going now, so you would hope that we will be moving rather away, from there. And then forest reserves as well. And we know what has happened to a lot of the forest reserves where people would even be, and normally forest reserve, you don't have the small scale miners. It is supposed to be large scale mining. And they are supposed to go there and supposed to be doing prospecting and exploration. And you find them doing these, a typical example, and I seem to go back to Heritage Imperial, because that is evidence that is there in Wating's report. 25 excavators to do exploration. Who does that? My basic engineering will tell me that definitely that could not be exploration. That could not be prospecting that is happening in there. And then the point is that who is dealing with these issues? And the calamity that we are faced with, the fact that our very livelihood are being eroded. And we're talking about this before we went live on air. You see the Chinese involved in it. And you can see that there's a deliberate plan by the Chinese. Whilst they come and they are destroying our cocoa lands, our cocoa farmlands, they are developing their cocoa. So you want to ask the Minerals Commission a response to this. What is the explanation to these things? There are other places. And I think one of the challenges we have, and I know there's supposed to be some plan towards it, because we've not really done detailed prospecting and know that this place is really they are golden. So that's why you find out that immediately they think that a large-scale mine has gone into a particular point.
Then there's a confirmation for them.
And then they go in there. And because these people, when they mine, they really they are not like some of the small-scale miners who are mining legally, who are now even beginning to post bonds. They go there, they destroy. If they don't find here, they move to the next place. Even when they find, they are not, obligated to fix it. So for them, the margins are large. And we are sitting in this country, and we've been told by the Al Jazeera documentary, the amount of gold that is also leaking out of this country. If we got those resources, we would not even need to be going to the IMF. So I think, for me, one of the places we've gone to now is the next tranche, or the next 600 million that we're supposed to be getting. We should be asking the IMF to ask us, as a people, how are you governing these resources that you have to make sure that you're getting the maximum out of them? How difficult would it be for the state to see what Erastus saw and saw Chinese people actually involved in it? If you take the Wasago Field one again, if you see it, you are told that the people who actually led the attack were not Ghanaians. These are other Africans. So we are sitting in here, and as Honorable said, we are becoming servants to people who are destroying our very survival. And we are allowing that to happen. So the time has come for us to start letting the local people cross the T's and I's and do the linkages that these things that are happening, they are not in our benefit, so that we can start getting them to revolt. If you get the masses beginning to revolt against this, you know what that will do? Democracy will let some correction happen. Because if the masses are saying they don't want this, then for the politician who wants the vote, he needs to please them. But for now, because we are not doing the linkages properly, these people in these rural communities are not realizing that some of these babies that, these octopus babies that they are having, some of these stillbirths that they are having, some of these strange diseases that they are having, the fact that poverty itself is becoming endemic in the places that they are mining, they don't see that. So we need to start also educating them. That is where we also need local leadership. There is a town not too far from Kwabeng. They have a water body called Esubone. Mm-hmm. The town is governed by a queen mother and her elders. They have decided that there's no Galamsey happening in that place. and currently there's no Galamsey happening in that place. You go a few kilometers to Kwabeng and the destruction that is happening. So this is a queen mother. Another example is the Mampohene, who has decided that he's not going to allow Galamsey happening. Another one is also one of the chiefs from the Bono area, who is a high court judge. He has also decided it. And you're beginning to see the pockets that is happening. So beyond our politicians, we also need to start holding our local leaders accountable. Evans, let me tell you, if you go to Enyinem, just behind the Enyinem police station, there is Galamsey happening on the waters that are there. So what is happening to the district, the IGP, what is he telling the district police commander that are in those communities? So you see, we need to start realizing where we are going, and things like this should prick all of us our conscience. And I think civil society has also become, media. I'm happy that now multimedia are beginning to talk about this thing. But civil society,
but you sense a fatigue, right? I think apart from yourself, who has been very, very vigorous and you sustain this, mostly everybody else who started with you have sort of let this go.
Evans, don't you find it worrying that when I started this, I was managing director of graphic. Yeah. When I was really in the media and the convener for the media coalition against Galamsey, that I left in 2017. How many years? And I'm still convener for the media coalition. And so for even we, the media as well, it's a thankless job, it's a dangerous job. Absolutely. It comes with all the things. But we as media, we are the last frontier if we leave it. So I am appealing to leadership. And that's why for me, I would, for an entity like multimedia, who's still deciding to follow this. It is simple. You see, this thing is a survival thing. The way we are going very soon. And sometimes we sit in Accra and think that this is not going to affect us.
No, it is affecting us.
I flew from the Western region. And if you see that the estuary of Ankobra, so deep in the sea, this is so as you're flying over the sea, you see the level of turbidity of even the sea. So if all of that is coming with the lead and the mercury and all of that, it is going to get in there. So it's not only the river fish anymore. Yeah. Even the sea fish as well is going to happen. And the food that you're eating on your table. It comes
back to your dinner table. I mean, Dr. Rashid Purple, because you are in Parliament, you have some authority. Parliament resumes pretty soon. From next week, is it true?
Yeah, 25th.
What do you plan to do with the document that you've got?
Well, I think that we need to look at it more thoroughly. I'm both in the Committee on Lands and in energy. We need to look at it thoroughly. We need to understand exactly what is happening. I think also that we need to draw attention to the states, the people of Ghana, that we are becoming the second level of slave trading that happened in the past. We've gotten to that level. We just imagine slavery was bad. Everybody was saying it was bad, except the Africans who were doing it themselves. We thought that when they even said they didn't like it, we insisted that it was good. It's the same thing happening now. I saw a European talking to us and saying this should not happen. It's killing the babies. And we are not listening. We will continue to do the thing that destroys us. So this is something we need to look at in a more thoroughly.
Now that you have the document, and from what you say, and again, I haven't verified it, because you produced it here, you should use this as an opportunity to hold the Minerals Commission before you and ask some questions. Why are you giving, in fact, if it's true, licenses for firms to mine along and across river bodies?
That's the question. We need to ask that question. Why
will you do that?
We definitely will do that. We definitely will ask that question because we can't understand it. I got this information in the course of the break, as I tried to find out exactly what is happening. I've written an article about it, and I hope to discuss it. I hope to present it in Parliament as a paper. And I assume that so much needs to be done, and that we can't just allow this thing to be happening the way it is. And for government to be looking on as if nothing happens. I am going along with the fact that there is an element of responsibility to be demonstrated by the states, held by the government. And the government itself appears to be talking and not doing anything about it. So we want to hold the government responsible. We want to bring out all these issues that we are gathering. Erastus has done so well. Yeah. And Joy FM, thank you very much for bringing up these things. We believe that if we get such coalition with the media, involved in bringing these things out and start mobilizing the critical masses of people, it will be possible for us to draw enough attention to the ills that are going on our lands and the destruction going on in the waters. You know, eventually it's going to have a telling effect on the economy of this country.
And maybe Ken Ashibe can attest to this. In the early days of the media campaign against illegal mining, after we waged it for a year, you went back and you look at the water. It had improved. I remember.
Exactly.
I remember
the evidence
after a year.
was very clear.
Now
it had improved.
It's as bad as ever.
Yeah, and Erasto said it, that it went there last year and it went there this year. And it's even worse. And because let me bring in Gerard Boachi, who is a senior corporate affairs manager at Golden Star Wasa Limited. He's now rejoined. We lost him earlier. Hello, Gerard. Hello, Gerard. If you can unmute for me. Hello, Gerard. Okay, let's see if we have Ahmed Natoma on. Hello, Natoma.
Yes, hello, Evans. I'm here.
Great, Gerard, right? Because. Ahmed. Okay, great, Ahmed. Okay, great, Ahmed. Tell me. I mean, at the chamber today, you sent a delegation to the Obuasi mines, where the illegal miners had taken over the mines there and locked themselves up in the shaft and say they are not going to come out. I understand that has been resolved now, but this is not the first time this has happened. Gerald's company was the last that was attacked. The place was burned. I know you've been trying to get some governmental attention to the problem. What's the progress?
Thank you, Evans, and good evening. Evans, as you can hear from my big brothers in the studio, there's no progress. I mean, we are not getting any traction. Actually, we were already in the area with the CEO on a visit to the mining companies and their stakeholders. And if you see the destruction of the illegal miners, even along the roads. So it's not for lack of attention. Everybody knows what is going on. It's just the lack of action that we see as a chamber. And it's sad that we are doing this to ourselves. We have complained, we have talked about it. But yes, the powers that be are not responding to our request. And it's affecting the whole country. The people, even down there's the cyanide that is brought in by illegal miners from other countries. They get into the country and they are just using the cyanide with impunity, polluting the rivers and everywhere.
I mean, Ahmed, I need to ask you, because you are in the chamber, so you need to tell me. Cyanide. How is it possible for an individual to import? This is a very dangerous chemical. And I'm sure there are laws and regulations governing this. Even around the world, you can't just move cyanide. So how are people, individual miners, illegal, getting cyanide in and getting it to the sites?
That's an interesting question. You know, they just bring it across the border, especially from Burkina Faso, in gallons, you know, the blue gallons. They just bring them across the border. And so we have found that this issue of illegal mining is a complex issue involving everybody, immigration, the police, and like Uncle Ken has said, the community, they need to stand up and say, we don't want them. But sometimes they feel that the people are giving them cash every day, so they tend to follow them. But the chemicals that they are bringing in, they bring in across the border from Burkina Faso, and most of the Ghanaians are not even used to that chemical yet. So they'll tell that, oh, it is the Burkinabés who are now teaching them. So now it's going to become one of the other problems that we're going to have. In addition to the destruction by the dozers and the excavators, direct pollution of the water and the sand and the soil with these chemicals.
But your members, this is graduating now. Your members are now becoming subjects of attack and invasion. How are you dealing with that?
Like we're twofold. We are engaging the community to try to get them to understand that the resource is a national resource, and whatever we make is shared with government as well for the community development. And we're also working with the national security and the state and our ministry to try and provide some semblance of security to the mines, and also try to get prosecution for those who have been arrested for that, because the impunity is just too much. And we have recently went around the Western region. We met some MCs, we met chiefs, and the posturing and the kind of words we hear, like some of them have given up, some of them are so complicit that they are unable to even enforce anything. You understand? Because he's either doing it, or he knows somebody who's doing it, or everybody sees someone who's doing it. So because you can't even police your backyard, you are unable to move ahead. So look, Perseus Mining has a heap leach, and the heap leach is one of the resources that they were planning to get to. The whole area has been invaded by small-scale miners, illegal miners. They are just there every day. They are eating and they are threatening the company. They are so emboldened with lack of prosecution, and the fact, I don't know, they have some powerful forces behind them, and it's scary. So
really, but this is an industry, and your members, they pay millions and billions of dollars. And if you look at the budget, if you look at the extractive sector, particularly the gold mining sector, the significant amount that they contribute to the state. Isn't that enough leverage to use to get the action that you're asking for?
And in the normal sense, it should have been enough leverage. And we think it is enough leverage. It's just that nobody's taking action. Either we'll do that, we'll get to that. And
but that beats me. But why? Because in the local communities, we have an MP, we have a DC, we have the chiefs, all of them there. They see that this is happening. Mines have been taken over by a league. And you're saying nobody's acting.
No, I mean, like I said, it's piecemeal. I mean, it's not comprehensive enough, So once it's not comprehensive enough, the people move from this pocket to this mine. They move from this area to that area. And we have something that has come up called community mining. So now everybody in the community says, look, we also want to do community mining, and you give us the mine. For instance, Anglo-Gold Ashanti, they gave us 70% of their concession to the community, to the state.
Say that again. Anglo-Gold Ashanti gave up 70% of their concession.
Of their concession.
70%.
Yes. So they are now concentrating on just about 30% of their previous concession. And that's what they are working on. And that is the same place that the guys invaded. So even despite the fact that they have given up some of the concession for everybody, some people will still go right and say that where the mining company has planned and has invested, that is where they want. And that's what happened at Benzo, and that's what happened at Perseus. The people they want where the mining company is. And if we don't take care, very soon, as they keep invading and keep getting emboldened, they will just take over a mine, and that will be chaotic.
You see, if we don't act, this is what is going to happen. So these people are getting emboldened. Because they have a lot of money, I don't know how much that ounce is, whether it's 2,000 now, so they have a lot of money. They will buy the local politicians. They will start buying the MPs. They will buy national politicians. And by the time you see it, they have courts that they control. And it will become lawless. And gold is also an exhaustive one. So when the gold gets finished, what would they use the arms and all of that for? The interesting thing, the media and academia are starting to come together. Where a partnership, we are calling MAP, Media Academia Partnership, where we can research into some of these things and be able to follow them, And so it is important that we get support to be able to do this. But we need to start asking people who can support us. And I think one of the people currently that all of us in Ghana would listen to would definitely be, the so-called development partners that we've gone into. They need to be asking us the question, what are you doing about your governance? I would also ask, Honorable, that as they do this, they need to try and make it in such a way that it does not become partisan. Unfortunately, we're going to get into the next election. These people are rich. They would fund both the NDC and MPP. So we need to take this as national assignment and deal with. I would wish that the media, you do a research about, do we have also NDC MPs in some communities that there's illegal mining?
I'm pretty sure.
It would be good to look at that as well.
But you have to respond to that, the partisan.
I had discussions with Ken on this matter about non-partisan approach to issues. But of this critical moment, power has been given to a people. Power is in the hands of the MPP administration right now. This ultimate, complete failure of them to act must be condemned. If you don't condemn it and put them on the spot, then who are you to go and command the police to go and do anti-Galamsey activity, or the army to go and do? The state has the power, and the power is held by Nanado and his people. his ministers, his MPs and key members of his party are involved in Galamsey. We are not talking about that.
Well,
let's talk about the failure.
The president will say there's no direct evidence to support that.
It is wrong for anybody to say there's no direct evidence.
But where
is his regional chairman not involved in Galamsey? Is his women organizer not involved in Galamsey?
He says he's doing legitimate.
But that's the language he can. Look, speaking what he says or administer. I don't even know what to say. Telling you what he wants in order to absolve himself from blame is simply not to close your eyes to the facts. But the truth is that they are directly involved. And the Frimpong Boateng came out clearly and said that they were all involved.
I mean, Dr. Purple,
so we need to investigate this. We need to come out with a conclusion that government is not doing this work before we sell. How can we be talking about external people to come and help us when the people who we have voted for are just sitting down and getting involved in it?
Dr. Purple, thank you. I mean, I'm grateful that you joined me, Ken. And by the way,
So I want us to pin it there. Yeah.
I mean, by the way, just before we go, I mean, tomorrow, midnight, SIM cards are going to be blocked.
Yes,
You're also the Chief Executive Chamber.
Yes.
But there is some reprieve for people?
Yeah, so what's happened is that you would have, and the initial directive was going to be that we're going to block, we're going to delink, and then we're going to remove. But through the magnanimity of the NCA, what is going to happen now is that, so they will block. So when we block, now all the fraudsters and all of that, will not have access again. But then you have the opportunity, so you can do a call, you can send a text message, you can do data, you can do your mobile money. But you have the opportunity to be able to dial *404# to be able to register when you get your Ghana card. You also be able to check whether you're registered, so the 400 would also be working. And then, so now when you go back with your Ghana card, you can restore your number with all the history that is behind it. Also, typically like the police, if somebody has committed crime, in what we're going to do initially, it would have wiped up all of that evidence. So the police can still go back in there and be able to go and investigate it. And also for the about 7 million or so whose mobile money will be affected, what has happened is if you restore, you will get access to it. If you don't restore, what was going to happen is that the Bank of Ghana has asked the EMIs who operate mobile money to put that money in an account aside so that with the right evidence, you'll be able to go and get it. But what the NCA has done smartly is that there is no timeline for this. So the NCA could decide that 2 days later, I am going to delink, remove.
And then you lose access to
your Momo. Lose it.
To your Momo.
No, you lose the access to your Momo, there now you will lose it.
Okay.
The only way you do is going to get your Ghana card.
And register.
But if the NCA decide that this window they've given, after a week, they are going to stop it. What is going to happen is that
blocks you forever.
It will block you forever. You will not have your number. And you should bear in mind, even if this is the number you use to do your banking and your OTPs are sent on it, from midnight, what is going to happen? The telcos is about 9 million so for everything else. But the telcos will not be able to
is 2 hours.
Yes, but they will not be able to do all of it at once. So you find out that MTN might be able to do like 800,000. Tigo might do the same number. So it will take a while for them to be able to get it. But it's definitely going to get there. Okay. So it's important that we don't take this reprieve and like the way we've done since October 2021 and just go to sleep. Okay. Make sure you go get your Ghana card number and then make sure you register. Those who have issues with it, they need to report it to the NCA so that the NCA can help them resolve it. Because there are people who, have their slips, but they don't have their card.
Well,
so all of that needs to be dealt with.
Well, a good way to end because countdown is on 2 hours time. If you haven't done so, you will lose access. Not access. You can call, you can receive, but you can register. So take advantage of that and do so. Enjoy the rest of your evening.